So Wednesday, April 16th, Capcom will be releasing a brand new update for the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the third update that this game has received, and this is a very huge update for this game. I'm very glad that Capcom are still ironing out all the minor issues that this game still has. Of course, my biggest complaint day one was no Juggernaut glitch, like the Cyttorak power-up was completely taken out, but Capcom then later added it back in like the second update that this game received. The first update was basically just like bug fixes and just polishing stuff like that. Nothing major. But the update that we're going to be receiving now is a huge update. The biggest thing I noticed was the version select for X-Men vs. Street Fighter. So X-Men vs. Street Fighter notoriously has infinites. Basically, like every character in the game can do an infinite. And Capcom, in the original release of this game, included a version where the infinites were taken out. Like, it's a completely different version of the game. I think it's one of the newer, or one of the last versions that was actually officially released on arcades. But in the new update, you'll actually be able to choose 3 different versions of the game, including a version which does have the infinites. I don't know which ones are going to be available online, if it's going to be all 3 or what. But either way, the version with all the infinites, all the crazy big combos you can do with Storm and basically everybody else, you're going to be able to do that again. You're going to be able to play the versions of the game that have those big crazy infinites, so that's always very, very sweet. X-Men vs. Street Fighter has truly been resurrected, what can we say? Another option too is the ability to increase the resolution for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So Capcom wanted to remain faithful to the original arcade version of the game, which is why the game runs at 480p. It's basically arcade perfect, like 99% arcade perfect. A couple of major glitches, like Gambit glitch, were removed, but, you know, that's understandable, right? But with the new update coming out this Wednesday, you will actually be able to increase the resolution, I guess, to make it look like the PS3 version, like the Xbox 360 version, which did have enhanced visuals. That was basically a remaster of Marvel 2. I don't know if you'll be able to play it in 16:9. I think it'll be 4:3, but just with enhanced resolution. So that's awesome. I think that's a great addition. And the biggest update, and in my opinion, the biggest complaint that I had for this game, the biggest issue, in my opinion, as I mentioned earlier, no versus mode. The new update will be adding a dedicated versus mode to this game. That is a fantastic addition. You don't have to load a quick save anymore to go back to the character select screen. Now, whenever you win or lose, you can just select rematch. It'll send you right back to the character select screen. I'm sure if a switch glitch, that'd be great too. I don't know if you'll be able to pick the stages. I'd imagine you would. You can manually select the stages like you could in the Dreamcast version. And it's not just Marvel 2, it's every game that now has a dedicated versus menu, and that is incredible. And you can choose how long you want the set to be. You can do first to 3, first to 5, first to 10, or you can do the Marvel tradition and do a first to 15, or at least play until your hands fall off, because Marvel 2 is a very physically demanding game. You can choose to have a human opponent, which is 2 controllers, or you can choose to fight the CPU, and that's in every game. So if you want to fight the CPU, you can actually choose who your opponents are. So you don't have to continue fighting Servbot if you don't want to. So how nice is that, right? I think that is an incredible addition to the game. Another option is being added to toggle hold to pause instead of tap to pause, and I think that is fantastic. In this game, I have mashed so hard before to activate Cyclops' super that I inadvertently paused the game. And that even happened at like the Tournament of Champions at the EVO Awards earlier this year. It's a pretty big problem with this game. People accidentally pausing when they don't mean to. But now in the new update, you can actually toggle an option where you have to hold to pause instead of tap to pause. And that is going to be very good for tournaments and just competitive play in general, because now when you're mashing really, really hard to get max damage Storm Super, you don't have to worry about inadvertently pausing the game, especially if you're on pad like I am, so that's nice. Also, some new art is being added by Shinkiro, so that's nice. And we're also getting some remixes of classic songs by Cap Jams, which are the Capcom sound team. So Captain America, Captain Commando, Cyclops, and Jin are going to have remixed themes by Cap Jam. So I think that's awesome that they're adding a couple of extra bonus tracks as well as adding some new art. So that's always nice. And it's a really great thing for Capcom to continuously update the collection. I think now this is absolutely the definitive version of Marvel vs. Capcom, particularly 2. I'll have to experiment a little bit, but I'm pretty sure with the enhanced visuals like the PS3, Xbox 360 versions had, Marvel 2 definitely will be the definitive version. I'm glad that they added Juggernaut glitch, because if I remember correctly, the PS3 version did not have Juggernaut glitch. I played the PS3 version of this game. But it's nice to see Capcom didn't just release the collection and then just leave it alone. They are continuously updating the game, and this update really does fix basically all of the pre-existing complaints that the game had, particularly the lack of a dedicated versus mode. I thought that was the biggest issue. And I'm glad you can now select previous versions of X-Men vs. Street Fighter. I think that's awesome, because if you've ever seen high-level competitive play of that game, it gets pretty sweaty at times, particularly with those big, giant, fancy, like infinite combos you can do. But the option to be able to play the older versions of the game is always great. Just having the option is what really matters the most. But I'm very, very glad that Capcom has continuously updated the collection to improve it. It will most likely be a significant improvement. What I'm most excited for is the enhanced resolution for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I think Versus mode is fantastic, and as I mentioned earlier, the ability to play the older versions of X-Men vs. Street Fighter is fantastic as well. This is just a very, very great update, and it's much welcomed as well. The only thing I can think about in terms of audio, in pre-existing issues, I would say is maybe the audio issues in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, how the audio isn't exactly one-to-one with the original version of the game. Like, I know Sentinel still has some audio issues. I think some of Storm's attacks do as well, but maybe they'll be ironed down the update, because I'm sure there's other changes as well. But I just wanted to talk about the incredible update that's about to come out for this game, and I absolutely am excited for it. Dreams don't die.